My lecture today would be a commentary on a well-known saying of Sri Ramakrishna, Jato mat tato path. Now, for a long time, this particular saying or verse has captivated me, and I've tried to understand it in many ways, but it never got clear to me. Now, I will not try to lead you from unclarity to clearness to unclarity, but the other direction. That means I am trying to become clear by thinking of it in many ways, and at the end, if I can come to the end actually, you decide whether you have your ideas on this particular sentence of Sri Ramakrishna has become clear or still more jumbled up. If you are jumbled up, more confused, then forgive me. If you are clear, you need not thank me. Now, jato mat tato mat, jato mat tato path. Mat, of course, means not any view, but clearly a religious point of view. So, if you, according to the religious point of view, so many paths, not any paths, but paths towards a religious goal. The implication is that there is a common goal, an end point which can be reached by many alternate paths. But does the sentence Jato mat tato path actually say that? It does not say that you reach the same goal. It says as many paths, so there are goals, different goals. But I think in some way we understand this to mean that as many paths, all these paths lead to one common goal. But it doesn't say that. It says as many paths, so many goals. Now, whether these paths are all the same is a further addition that we make to this, what actually is being said here. So, I will try to take you through various steps in this argument. But there are many questions that arise. By paths, one may mean in abstract generalities, such as Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, etc. The paths of knowledge, devotion, and action, each permitting some a priori differentiations. That means, although knowledge, devotion, and action are different paths, the Christian practice of devotion, the Vedantic practice of knowledge, and the Bhagavad Gita's doctrine of karma, they are not the same. Do they lead to the same goal? Or one may mean all and every historical religion, such as Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism, each of which may contain internal differences. That means there are many varieties of Islam, there are many varieties of Christianity, and there are many varieties of Hinduism. The two lists may not coincide. That is to say, such that to each member of the first list, there corresponds one and only one of the second list. That means, see, we have two lists here. One is knowledge, devotion, and action, and the other is the religions, Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism, and they don't all seem to be alike, the same. Actually, there is considerable differences between them. But do all these paths, understood either way, lead to the same goal? And what is the same goal, actually? God realization, as people put it very simply. It doesn't seem to be all God realization. No. For Buddhism does not believe in God, and so does not aim at God realization. There is some difference about early Buddhism and later Buddhism. The Buddhism as stated in the Jatakas, and then later on Buddhism as developed by the different schools of Buddhism. Now, I will not for the moment go into that. Advaita Vedanta aims not as God realization, but at moksha or spiritual freedom. We still want to call it God realization. That's because we want to give up what Shankaracharya, perhaps the greatest of the Buddhist, the Advaita scholars and the Advaita philosophers actually said. You can interpret spiritual freedom to mean God realization, or interpret God realization to mean spiritual freedom. But that is arbitrary. The idea of moksha or nirvana is interpreted differently in different systems. The God of a Vaishnava could not be the same as that of an Advaitin. The God of a Christ or a Christian cannot be identical with the God of the Hindus. I'm saying it from a point of view that I don't believe in any God. Forgive me. I don't believe in God. I hold, however, that any one of these positions may be held quite apart from it. A Hindu strives after release from the chain of karma. A Christian strives after a place in heaven. The identity of God through them, Christianity, Islam and Hinduism, is not self-evident. That means they may be identical, but as yet we have not seen any identity. Faced with this kind of questioning, the universalist may adopt the following strategies. The universalist is one who believes that there is something called universal religion. Now, let us distinguish between the real ultimate goal and the way the goal is conceived within a system. Now, this is a difficult philosophical distinction. The actual practitioner, when he practices Hinduism or Islam or Christianity, may be aiming at a certain goal. But in the long run, he may, however, reach some other goal, actually. And this may quite well happen, actually. But what is this real ultimate goal? There are three possibilities. One, a transformation of finite human existence. No matter which religious path you follow, it may mean a complete transformation of your life, of your existence. Two, freedom from suffering, pain, etc. Three, a unity of the finite and the infinite, of matter and spirit. I leave it to you to think whether such general characteristics of the ultimate goal would meet your approval. You will find that you will immediately speak about this goal, whatever the goal you reach ultimately, in a language that is admissible within your religion, whether it is Christianity, Islam, or Buddhism, or Vedanta. That means the same idea that it will mean a complete transformation of your existence may be described by a Hindu, by a Christian, by a Muslim, the Vaishnava, in a very different language. Now, what is the guarantee that what you are articulating in that language is really what you mean? I can give many examples of this, but since many of you are more familiar with these religions than I am, you can find out your own examples. The Islamic sadhu or the practitioner understands, he also talks about the transformation of the existence. But his existence transformation means, on the one hand, it may mean the practitioner of a Sufi, or it may mean the practitioner of a theist who reads the Quran every day, or it might mean some other Christian sect, the Muslim sect, which the practitioner may actually practice. I leave it to you to think whether such general characteristics of the ultimate goal would meet your approval. You will find that you will immediately speak about this goal in a language that is admissible within your religion. This solution, if it is one, gives you the assurance of an ultimate unity, but does not succeed in fulfilling that assurance. That means you don't really understand what is the ultimate goal. The universalist who believes that all paths lead to the same goal. The universalist sometimes makes a strong claim. He says all religions are in essence the same. I wish to reflect on this belief, that all religions are in essence the same. There are two alternatives. Now, I'm trying to think, I'm sorry because I'm not accustomed to think in any other way. I think of various possible answers and then I reflect on them. I just cannot give you the answer. Because if I knew the answer, then this exercise would have been useless. So I want to reflect on this belief that there is a common essence of all the religions. There are two alternatives. You can either make it true by reducing the essence to a minimal property. That means the essence is that which is in common the Islamist believes in common with the Hindu, the Vedantin, the Christian, the Vaishnava, so on. In the case of religion, the minimal essence is, now that's a very important question, that what is it that the minimal essence of all religions, which is exemplified in every religion. The minimal essence is, I would call it, sacredness. That whatever may be the religion you practice, there is a sense of sacredness attached to every religious practice. Something is sacred. But this by itself is not a religion. The essence of religion is not a religion. I want you to understand this very simple sentence. The essence of religion is not a religion. It is a common. The essence of mankind, rationality, the Greeks said. But that doesn't constitute a man. A man has a body and is embodied, and many other features. A religion consists in many things. At least I will list some. You can add yourself many others. One, there is a religious experience, first of all. he considers something, an experience, to be religious. 2, every religion, Christianity, Islam, Vedanta or Hinduism, has texts, religious text. You read a book, revelations and scriptures. 3, rituals and liturgies. You practice rituals by arati, for example, and liturgies. If you are a Vaishnava or even if you are a Shankarite, there are these things. 4, a religious community. That means a public space, not a private space, a public space constructed by a community of believers. I want to emphasize that distinction, which may not be clear to some of you. I think if you are a religious practitioner, you go to a church or a temple, or I go to Dakshineshwar temple sometimes. I used to go, now I cannot go. And there, the temple of Kali itself, within the temple, there is a space which is, or within the temple location, the whole area, there is sacredness. Everything is sacred. But you walk outside it, just outside this temple compound, there are shopping places, people are selling foods and goods, and you can buy other things, which is increasing day by day actually. When I was a young student in the Presidency College, I used to go to Dakshineshwar. At that time it seemed to me the sacred space was extended the whole area, because it was still that same banyan tree under which Sri Ramakrishna had practiced his religious practice. But now the sacred space is shrinking and the public space is opening up all around it. You see, the sacred space and public space have nothing to do with belief in God, actually. You may, for me, entering into a library, like the Kolkata University's library, was always a sacred space. And coming outside, just outside where the cars are parked, now that is a public space. Now, so merely having a distinction between sacred space and public space does not make you religious. It depends upon which space you regard as sacred. That means you behave in it in a certain way, actually. Prospect of a unity is more promising with one. That means religious experience. We seem to think that there must be same kind of experience, whether you are a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist or a Hindu or a Vedantin. The experiences do not as such conflict. Actually, this is one of the things which I have always thought about a great deal, that our experiences don't conflict. In their purity, they lift a person into another dimension of existence. You enter into the temple, you feel differently. This has been a very important for me to think about. I was reading and quoting this to my friend Goethe's, the poet Goethe's, seeing the Strasbourg Cathedral. Now, if you know German or have read Goethe in translation, then you would know about it. When he reached the Strasbourg Cathedral, he looked up and he saw this huge Gothic cathedral in Strasbourg, which is just across the Rhine in France now. It always changed hands after every war. So when Goethe looked at it as a young man, he says, I felt as if I am lifted to heaven. And his commentary on that is just marvelous. Now, it's nothing to say I'm going up towards God. But this cathedral, the Gothic structure of it, is such that as if I was lifted up. You can see that this is an aesthetic experience. It's at the borderline between aesthetic experience and religious experience. Just borderline. An aesthetic experience becoming religious, or religious experience becoming aesthetic. There are many such philosophers or poets who have recorded these experiences in much better language than I can do, actually. If you have read the German poet Rainer Maria Rilke, you might have read his many of his poems, which are beautiful descriptions of religious experience. I don't know if he believed in God or not. So I say they lift a person into another dimension of existence. One can actually believe in God, but may never have a religious experience. So so obviously they are not the same. There are when Jesus Christ was he entered into the synagogue, he saw these rabbis selling things and exchanging money and things, and he couldn't believe that this is a place for religious belief. Although that's what people were practicing, they were not religious. He just walked out of it, actually. Then I come to 2. Texts, revelations, and scriptures. And these are the points which constitute religion. Some of these seeming conflicts at the level 2 are due to the different languages. The text, the religious writers use Sanskrit, Arabic, Hebrew. Each brings with it its own ontological commitments. That means you might be thinking, we are describing the same experience. Just think of it a little bit. I didn't find that we are describing the same experience. The experience that I have when someone is reading a text like Rigveda, actually, which I greatly admire and read myself. That this is describing an experience which is very different from one who reads Holy Quran, actually. But they are both religious texts. The experiences are different. Shankara, whom I always think as the Vedantin philosopher par excellence, Shankara described it, since he was a poet, he described in many, many different ways. Three, rituals and liturgies. 3, they evolve in time, derive from local needs and demands, and their sanctity is derived, not original. This is just recently, on my way to Kolkata, I stopped in Madras, and one of the places I went to is where there is the grave, or the grave of whose grave? The Swami Shankara's foremost disciple, with whom he was a Mimamsak. Mandana. And I went to see Mandana's tomb. And of course I was overpowered by emotion. But at the same time, one of the priests there came to me and said, "You just go around this, and there is the priest, there is the Samadhi of Shankaracharya himself." Now I couldn't believe it because I have learned since my childhood, reading Shankara's poems, not the Brahmasutra Bhashya, but the poems, that Shankara was found missing when taking a dip in the Ganges, and he was never recovered. So I asked them, how is it that Shankara died here, that his grave is here, that Shankara died in the Himalayas? He said, "No, we believe in this. We believe that Shankara came to his birthplace. He could not reach Kerala. He could not go there. He died here. And he was, the age was a little more than 32 years of age. But this is where Shankara..." So they have a very different tradition. And they thought, they argued with me. And I said, I don't want to argue, because I'm forgetting lots of things, and I'm very good at argument, but not now. I won't argue with you. But I said, are there two Shankaracharyas? Think of this. Or two traditions of Shankaracharya. The Shankaracharya of that mutt, in the meantime, he was coming out. He was very nice to me. I made pranam to him. And I asked him this question, the same question. He said, "Just before you came out, and I was formulating in my mind, how would I put this question to you?" And the question is very simple. Which one is real Shankaracharya? So you can see that there is a change, a historicity of these rituals and liturgies. That is where you can go and do your pranam. There is a history of it. We do not know always the history. Sometimes the history we construct. We tell a story. Mostly we tell stories. But nevertheless, there is a history. There is a history of it. And finally, a community. There is no religion without a community of believers. Every religion must have a community, a group of people who do the same practice. The community of believers, with its sacred time and sacred space, is a construction and gives the essential sacredness of religious experience a habitat, a place. It consists of place, time, and also people. That is the community. Within the profane world. But it is here that there is a possible origin of conflict. You can see the conflict, how it originates. In that Shankara Mutt in Madras, there is a conflict between the belief which prevailed there, that Shankaracharya passed away there, and the other belief, which take the community of Shankara's admirers or followers, that Shankara really passed away in the Himalayas. As between the conflict between different political powers prevailing over different regions. So you can see how conflicts arise actually. We thus see that the reasons for conflict amongst religions are many, not deep in the religions, but rather in the constructed and historically interpreted religions. So really, if you want to have an identical religious belief, then you must go to the uninterpreted texts, not the interpreted beliefs. harmony amongst religions to be brought about by continuing our conversations. Now you can see my situation. I stopped conversation in the Madras monastery. So there is no discussion. But there should be continuing conversation to arrive at a harmony amongst religions. Mere coexistence and tolerance is not enough. We have, the upper caste Hindus we have left a long period of life, the community, coexistent with the untouchables. Coexistent with the untouchables, but we didn't tolerate them. They are different. Genuine conversation, we can bring the harmony about. Mere coexistence and tolerance are not enough. What is genuine conversation? It aims at not at gathering information from the other. And when asking the residents of that ashram, what do you believe in? Asking the residents of the other ashram. And in this way we really begin to coexist. Not merely exist together, but I don't have anything to do with you, but really we work together. In this situation, the first requirement is a sense of respect for the other. First requirement, not the only requirement. If I don't respect the other, that's the end of any dialogue, any conversation. I must respect the other. But merely respecting the other is not enough. Someone may tell you, I don't touch my neighbor, but I respect him. No, he certainly does not have that respect which I am talking about. The goal is not to prove anything, not even to prove the unity of all religions, but to experience within one's heart the truth of the other. Can I do that? Within my heart, I will experience the truth, what the other believes in. But how can I do that? It is said of the poet Wordsworth, you know the famous romantic poet Wordsworth. He and John Keats, who is also a romantic poet, met for a conversation. They sat on opposite sides of a big tree in a wood without talking at all. And when leaving, thanked him for a wonderful conversation. And they left. Keats went back to where he was living, which is in Italy, and Wordsworth, of course, went back to the Lake Districts. They had a wonderful conversation. Now that's real conversation if they had one, if they are not lying, actually. I can empty my mind of my beliefs and let the other flow in. This is the highest experience of the other. Not when I insist on my truth of my beliefs and I completely deny any truth in your statement, or I accept a little bit of truth, but most of it I deny. An understanding of the other at a more theoretical level, I've thought about this and written considerably on this understanding the other. And always in the context of Indian philosophy, practice of yoga and everything. An understanding of the other at a more theoretical level requires that I bracket my own beliefs. I don't worry about my beliefs, I worry about his. Actually. I do not evaluate, judge the other's truth. Can an immaculate conception be true? Can I believe in it as a Hindu or a Vedantin even? But I take his beliefs as what he means, what he wants, the other. and I want to understand his beliefs. In this way, I can empathize with his way of looking at things. Empathizing with the other, I empathize, not sympathy. Empathize means as if I enter into his mind and see how he is moved by this belief. Empathizing with the other and thereby transcending the limits of my own perspective is necessary for a rational point of view. This unity of individual perspectives yields or may yield eventually a collective community's point of view. We all worship. I am a Vaishnava by birth, actually. I worship in my village in Orissa. I go to the temple and I worship Krishna. But when my father was alive, he used to go to the village, and when he stood before the idol of Krishna and there was arati going on, he would have tears rolling down his eyes, actually. And I was so moved by it. I was not moved by that much moved like him by the original the deity itself, but was moved by his experience of the deity. And that is for me empathizing with the other's religious belief. Actually. How many people are there who would walk into, they talk about the unity of religions, but who would walk into a Islamic cathedral, a temple, and while looking at there is nothing there, but they would have the same kind of behavioral response as your eyes full of tears. Now there are many such collective points of view. A religion represents one such. You may be a poet, a collective point of view you might reach, or you can be a man of religion. How can we transcend it? So take each religion as a path, then you must reach a goal. I'm still searching for the goal, remember this actually. I'm searching for the path, many paths, and also the goal. That's what I'm looking for, and I don't find it actually. A friend of mine here in Kolkata, a student of mine who is a very brilliant thinker, she came to my house the other day and I told them about this particular argument. He said, no, this is not true. We all the religions lead to the same goal, moksha. I said, that's fine. But consider the conception of moksha of Vedanta and the conception of moksha of the Vaishnava. If there is one, and they generally don't use the word moksha, but they can use it. But it's the Sanskrit word, and you don't have a privilege as regards the use of any word. But their understanding of the moksha would be different then. So you are not reaching the same goal. Each religion, now there are many such collective points of view. A religion represents one such. How can we transcend it? Go beyond all these different religions and reach one goal. Each religion corresponds to a certain perspective on the world. Whether you are a Vaishnava or an Islamist or a Christian or Vedantin, you have a certain perspective on the world. I have a partiality for symbolically expressing these thoughts, because then that is because of my early training in mathematics, actually. So one way of symbolizing is R1, that means one religion, corresponds to W1, world 1, its world. R2 corresponds to W2. R3 corresponds to W3. The R's stand for religions and W's stand for a perspective on the world. How can I harmonize them? If I belong only to one R, if I am a Buddhist, then my perspective is on the world as a Buddhist. But how can I share the perspective of a Vaishnava and the perspective of a Buddhist and the perspective of an Islamist? It's not possible. If I do not belong to a R, any of the R's, then I have no inner appreciation of what it is to be within a R. Then I don't believe in any religion, and then I don't have any inner appreciation of a religion. An irreligious harmony, this should be an irreligious harmony, not a religious harmony. This irreligious harmony would be from the outside. A religious harmony has to be from the inside. But how is this possible? There are several alternatives. I'm still giving you many alternatives because these are the alternatives through which I thought. X is an abstract rationality. A common feature is an abstract rationality when these R's have a common essence. That rationality is abstract. X is an additive rationality where you build up a totality by adding together R plus R1 plus R2 plus R3 and this infinite, it goes on. And a disjunctive rationality where it becomes R1 or R2 or R3 and then it goes on infinitely. So you can see that there are three possibilities. There is either a kind of exclusivism or an inclusivism, adding up everything, or a pluralism, that means disjunctive and perspectivism. That means there are many different perspectives on this common world. Stages. A. Emergence of a common core of overlapping of a conversation. That is exclusivism. A common essence of overlapping conversation. That means we are talking about the different religions, you about Islam and I am talking, or you are Christianity and I am about Islam. Now, as soon as we come to a common feature, it's now I have got the common feature. That is it shares with Hinduism and with Buddhism. So that is, I call exclusivism. Emergence of a common core of overlapping of the conversation. B. Not dialectical argument, inclusivism, where you want to include everything, all religions. Not a dialectical argumentation for or against a position, but by going beyond the positions to seek to bring the matter itself to intuitive givenness. Now this, some of you might find difficult to understand, but for this paragraph and the next one, I'm really, I owe a great deal to Hegel's phenomenology of the spirit. See, there are three reasons. There are not three reasons, but three conceptions of reason. One is vertical Vernunft, that means, or the Germans call vertical Vernunft, that means the spirit progresses in one direction. From this to this to this, it goes on. Or a horizontal Vernunft, that means that means you move on from one to the other, but not by a direct progression, but as if changing the horizon, which is the feature. Changing the horizon, which is a certain kind of movement actually. About this feature, I would not comment on it because this would be very difficult for me to comment right now. But I owe this a great deal to the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, and I also owe it to Merleau-Ponty and many other philosophers. And finally, a reason which I would call transversal religion, or transversal reason. That means reason where it moves from one mode of transition to another mode of transition. Now these are very difficult conceptions of movement. All movement is not linear. All movement is not a transition. Some movements are transitions actually, but some movements are what do I call it? Mediation. A mediation. And I cannot elaborate to you these types of mediation. There have been great thinkers in contemporary France actually, which includes Merleau-Ponty and Sartre and also great feminists who have commented on this, and I will not comment on them right now. Now this movement, this kind of thinking, philosophical thinking, that means I always move from one level to higher level, and then to higher level, then to higher level, whether direct transition or by a transversal movement is the question. Now, there are philosophers today, I would borrow something from them. These philosophers and philosophers who are connected with them. These are called postmodern philosophers. They have thought about this a great deal actually. Now, they say that although one philosophical system is different from another, it seems to be a different path, but we are between one and the other, we are left with something which hides itself between the interstices of these theories. Now these are called postmodern philosophers. There is a great German philosopher who just passed away a few years ago, and with whom I had stood for many, many years in very close connection. He used to tell me, then don't look at what the theory says, but you look at what it does not say, actually. Now that is there in the interstices, what it does not say. Now this also brings about a different kind of unity, not adding all the religions together and then get a point of view, but you still have differences, but you can move from one difference to another difference by taking into account the interstices of the theory. So this unity, it is called transversal unity. Now transversal unity are of two kinds, postmodernism and modernism. Postmodernism always moves in transversal unity. And modernism, now remember, you might think we are living in the modern era, but the French philosopher taught us that this is not yet, we are not in the modern era. The modern era is over. We are moving in a postmodern era, which means we are moving between their junctions. That's the transversal unity. So modernism believes in vertical unity. You just go from one to the higher, to the higher, to the higher, and then end up somewhere. And or transversal unity would be where we look not to the theories, but what occurs between the theories. And that is the real modern conception of theoretical movement. This is very, very interesting. I could comment on this for a long time, and particularly if I commented on this, then I would perhaps devote a lot of time to modern mathematics and physics. Interreligious conversation is not to be one-time affair to settle upon a few truths, but to pass a set of resolutions as in a conference. It is to be an ongoing affair with its own successes and disappointments. I can imagine a series of mutual reflections. Let Rn be reflected R1, R2, R3. In Rn plus 1 is reflected the other Rs. So in Rn plus 1, so the idea of development would be each would contain an understanding of the other. So what is pure Islam? What is pure original Islam or the original Christianity? There is none, actually. Now, I come to the end. Now think how far we are and also how near the original dictum, Jato Mat Tato Path. As many views, mat, so many paths. It does not mean all paths lead to the same goal. It does not. What can I do? It does not mean that. But it means, it promises some kind of unity amongst the various goals. Some kind of unity. That is some kind of unity among the various worlds. The world of the Hindus, the world of the Christian, and so on. Since we are thinking today in the postmodern era, this means that we have to follow a transversal conversation. Interreligious conversation has to follow the new path of finding a transversal unity, and thereby we would understand what this great saying, Jato Mat Tato Path, really meant, actually. I'm sorry, thank you very much.